Welcome everybody. It is Business Monday. We've got the Small Biz Fuel going on right here on beautiful, gosh darn beautiful, Wade Bossett Street in downtown Providence. What they used to call it a Chamber of Commerce Day, I guess you'd call it now a Commerce RI kind of day, right?
Sounds good to me.
The tourism folks over at Commerce RI are running around taking pictures, slapping them up on Instagram as fast as possible. It is a John Giorsi 10. Giorsi Factor
sure.
10 today, and it couldn't be nicer. Liz Tanner is here. She is the guru, the head of Department of Business Regulation. She oversees just about everything all of us do and don't do. And then, in addition to everything we do, she's also oversees, as part of her role as Director of Business Regulation, the Boxing Commission, which I always think is a great addition. You're overseeing blockchain technology and the Boxing Commission.
Fascinating.
Yes. And can you merge the two together? Could
Never
we get
a dull moment.
Right. I just don't remember the application of blockchain technology at the Thrilla in Manila bout. No?
I do enjoy being called the Boxing Commissioner. That's actually
Boxing
my
Commissioner?
title. Yes.
Is that your parking spot over at Commerce RI?
It's a great storyline. It's a great storyline.
Let's jump into regulations in Rhode Island. Listen, slap up any article on GoLocal and you can get somebody complaining about a regulation and how it's inhibiting their ability to grow their business. You've been very earnest and very proactive at reducing the number of regulations, and you have reduced how many so far?
So the state has reduced about 33% of the regulations.
33% of the regulation. Yes. And is this with any rhyme or reason, or do you just pick every third one and just delete it?
Well, a lot of it is organization and avoiding duplicates and putting it all together, but some of it was just getting rid of old and antiquated things.
Yeah. What was the most absurd one that you saw that has been removed?
Well, I can tell you the favorite one.
Favorite?
Was the mimosa regulation.
You did talk about the mimosa regulation.
That was definitely the favorite one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that allows for people to drink mimosas for sure on Sundays before noon.
And was that really demanded by Commerce Secretary Stephen Pryor or directly from the top by Governor Gina Raimondo?
I think the Rhode Island Hospitality Association had reached out to us and said, this is really important to our members. We want to make this clear. So
the governor had no role in the removal of the mimosa regulation?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that.
You are continuing your effort to improve and streamline regulations, and one of the ways you're looking to do it is really a call to action of asking people to come forward and make real suggestions by communicating directly with you in your office via email, phone call, and any other form of communication. Talk a little bit about that effort and kind of what's the goal in the short term and the long term.
So a couple years ago, we undertook an effort, called it a roadshow, and we went out to every Chamber of Commerce, every trade association we could possibly see, every BNI, every Rotary, every Merchants Association, anything that really existed at the time. We tried to get out well over 350 events, several thousand business owners, and we got to hear from them.
Yeah.
Because we knew what you know, but you don't know everything. So with that, we kind of had this large list of things to take a look at. And people don't come to us with, I have a problem with regulation 1, 2, 3, 4, and A, B, C, D. They come to us with, this is what really makes me crazy. So that's kind of the question that I ask now. I say, what's annoying? What makes you crazy? Let us know. We'll try to figure it out. And that's what we did then. And we kind of got this whole collection of things, and we took care of almost all of them, or at least the ones that we could take care of. And now we're ready to come back for more. Sort of round 2 of saying, tell us, please, what it is that makes you crazy. Because I got to tell you, a large portion of the time, it ends up not being true in some way. So we do the research, figure out what it is.
Is it urban myth? Is it they think there's a regulation? They've been told there's a regulation. I don't want to besmirch accountants or lawyers, but there's this sort of false sense of that you're not allowed or you must do something?
It's that famous NOAA guy.
Yeah,
because sometimes the guy told me that I could do this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that might be a state guy, it might be your buddy, it might be another professional that told you. It's just sort of, I guess it's urban legend that kind of portrays that, but there's a solid, I'm going to say quarter of things that people think that they're supposed to be doing is really not what they think it is and can be changed. So that's super exciting for us when we find those because we love the callback.
I just want to even the playing field on gender balance. The governor's a woman, the Secretary of State overseeing lots and lots of things interacting with business as a woman. You're head of DBR. You're a woman. Isn't it I know a gal?
It can be I know a gal. I think the Rhode Island vernacular is I know a guy, right? Like that tends to be what it is.
I
so.
find it quite sexist.
Oh, there you go. So, yeah.
Especially considering that you're all in power.
We can say I know a person.
I know a person.
So, I
That's
know a
right.
person. So we do. We receive that a lot, and people will say to us, "This is what makes me crazy." So that's what this round will be. We're going to go back out. We're going to say, "What makes you crazy? What do you find annoying?" And we're going to try to do the deep dive and figure out the research on that.
And then how should they communicate? What's the most valuable way that a business owner, somebody who's dealing with a regulation, sees a problem, and they need to communicate it to you? What's the best way for you to be able to take a first peek at it?
I mean, it's good to start with an email,
Yeah.
but very often, there's so many questions behind it, right?
Right.
So somebody will give us an example of something that was frustrating to them, but we'll need to understand sort of how it came to be. So there's inevitably follow-up questions, and sometimes that's where it gets tricky because people don't want to share, or it was a long time ago, and so we're trying to limit it. What problems have you had in the last 2 years? Because that's when things should have been changed better anyway. So so what's been bothering you from the last 2 years, so we can try to take a deeper dive and figure it out.
And then when you see a regulation, what's the process? Somebody's communicated to you that they think this is an obstacle that it's not having a benefit to the community, but it is creating a burden to the community. Let's talk about that scenario. No benefit, burden. How does that get approached? What's the assessment? What's the tools to assessing a regulation that you at first blush see that?
Well, you got to figure out where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
So is it a regulation? Very often it's a law,
Yeah.
or sometimes it's just a myth, right? So
Right.
one of the things that used to happen in Rhode Island was that it wasn't officially a regulation or officially a law. It was in a memo somewhere that wasn't publicly available.
Right.
So with that process where we got rid of the 33% of the regulations, and they're now all located on the Secretary of State's portal, those memos are gone, so that everything is now searchable and you can look up. So that's
Right.
changed things dramatically, because before there was that unknown factor, and you'd say, how can this possibly be a rule when I can't even find it in here? So that's been really great.
And then let's talk about how do you balance when somebody says it's an obstacle, and it is an obstacle, but that there's some level of benefit still remaining. And the obstacle may or may not balance with the other. How do you make a determination on that?
For me, it's about logic. If it
Okay.
seems illogical and it seems ridiculous, those are the ones I really try to focus on. Right? And
So
there's
you're
plenty of those.
anti-ridiculous,
Yeah.
you're pro,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah. So if it makes some sense, and it does serve a public purpose, there's still consumer protection, which is really, really important. That's where the line really is. But the ones that have been easiest for us to change have been the ones that are illogical.
And then talk a little bit about those in which there's a lot of momentum to changing one, but there's one interest group that wants to retain the existing structure.
A lot of the professional licenses are like that. So you'll see a scenario where in the beginning of the Raimondo administration, they tried to eliminate, I believe it was 32 different license types, and I believe the next legislative session, 23 of them came back, or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget what it was, but it was something along the lines of, there is an exclusionary factor where if I have my license, then only I can do that work, and the general public shouldn't be allowed to do that. And there's some pros and cons there, but sometimes it is just for the sake of limiting the amount of people who can.
So
do
can
that
we get a
profession.
regulation on digital innovative news organizations so we can
Perhaps.
block others from?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
One of the things that's been exciting for us is the food truck law.
Yeah.
So the food truck law is actually going into place July 1st. So we've been doing a lot of work, and we've really tried to look at it very differently. So because it is a new license, and you would think it would be more burdensome, what we've done is to first put it online. So that's a new and novel. We also have a relationship with the municipalities, so that you get a state license, and you now have the ability to go electronically to the municipalities. That's the first time we've done that. But we've also done some what I think are no-brainers, but I don't think are done very often or very consistently. We have frequently asked questions. We have a checklist of how to do it, and we're doing videos in both English and Spanish to show you
Wow.
how to sign up for it. So we're looking at that. We want to analyze it, make sure it works out well, and then ideally try to implement it with more and more license types so that you can have all that information, because a lot of people just want to know the answer to a question and they have to call us rather than the information's right there. So we're really excited about trying to do something new and novel.
So you play this role in the Department of Business Regulations and within the constraints of those elements that fall under your domain. Is there any thought of taking this very logical, very proactive, in many ways pro-Rhode Island, pro-business, but also pro-consumer, and making it a broader application to all the departments in state government?
So we are talking about that. It's one of those things where DBR has traditionally been the agency that has things online the most.
Right.
But even we're not perfect.
Right.
So it's come to my attention that we don't have all of our forms online. So we're now in the middle of an effort to get every single thing at least available online. Some people still like paper. But if I can't even get my shop in order, how can I ask other people to do it? So I'm trying really hard to get DBR to be the only state agency, at least the first state agency, that is entirely electronic. There are some other really great places that are trying to do that. DM is in fantastic shape. I know Department of Health is trying to make some changes.
Well, DEM, I mean, to show the positive results and how digital everyone is put the summer beach permits online and functionally sold more than they've ever sold in the history of mankind. Same beaches, just making it user-friendly.
And there's actually a couple other state agencies, which I'll save until they're officially online, who will be putting some other forms online. That will be a huge win for both citizen and business and municipality, because municipalities apply for these as well. So that's coming up hopefully this summer, later on this summer.
That's great.
Yeah.
How would you like to get the word out? Obviously, we're going to do it here. We're going to do an article tomorrow as well. How do you keep peppering along and encouraging people to participate and make things better?
I'm a big fan for the businesses to always join a chamber or an association, because they're your advocate. So if you're trying to run your business, there's no way you have time to figure out all the latest and greatest that's going on with the laws or the regulations or whatever's happening in your town. But if you belong to an association of some sort that ideally is in your space, whether it be because of where you're physically located or because of what you do in your business, that person who runs that organization, they're your go-to person who can answer all of these questions for you. So I always encourage you to belong to an association, because if they don't know the answer, they know who to ask to get the answer, and that's really, really important.
You've probably had some in which your people have suggested a regulation change or the elimination of a regulation, and you're not there yet, right? You're still reviewing it, you're still thinking about, you're looking at how other states are. Is there a good way to be able to keep people up to date as to where you are in the regulatory review?
As part of this food truck process, we started analyzing what are some of the good things we do and some of the things we don't do. In our entire financial services industry, when there is a substantial change made that you would want to know about, we do a bulletin.
Yeah.
And the professionals on the other side know to receive that bulletin and look at it. So we've been talking about saying, well, for food trucks, can we do something on Facebook or on Twitter so that we can have that kind of an interaction so that there's an easier way to get it? So those are some of the new and novel things that we're doing. I mean, this is it seems so silly because that's what everybody does, but it's a big deal for government to do stuff like that. So we are looking at doing it, and like I said, food trucks is probably going to be our test environment to say what was successful and wasn't successful. Is Facebook better than Twitter? I don't know the answer to that, but we'll start to really build that and grow it.
We can answer that for you.
To reapply.
And I'd also urge you to send out press releases on each of these regulatory changes, and I'll tell you why. We've built a pretty significant business following. We would want to get that out freestanding from whatever communications you're doing simultaneously. What else can we expect in 2019 going into 2020 at DBR?
So in addition to the food trucks, we are finally going to be putting the contractors registration online. So we have 13,000 contractors in the state of Rhode Island, and it's entirely a paper-based system.
Do you have a list of those who will actually show up and give you a bid on a project?
It's a busy season for them for sure, but we are going to finally put that online at some point this summer, and that's super exciting. And then their whole claims
Think
process,
of what a
everything will
geek you
go
are.
on.
It is super exciting that
I
I'm
know.
going to
It
get
really
all
is.
the 13,000.
Government efficiency is super exciting to me, but I do. It's fascinating to me. I enjoy looking at what other states
And
and
when
other
do you say
countries
this
do.
will be online?
This summer.
This summer.
Yep.
And is Twin River taking bets over or under whether or not this will be completed by Labor Day?
Oh, it was supposed to be done a long time ago. That's why I'm feeling confident about the summer. So any IT project always takes longer than you think for a variety of reasons.
It's like house painting. It takes twice as long and costs twice as much money.
And you watch it dry.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Liz Tanner, thank you so much. We will get the word out on all this.
Thank you very
It's
much.
always great having you in. Liz Tanner, a very proactive, thoughtful person over at the Department of Business Regulation. We love having her on. What we didn't talk about as much as we should have this time, but maybe we can get her back soon, is what's going on blockchain technology and some of the new implementations of the regulations that really are at the forefront of all the states in the country and really shouldn't be glossed over. We'll get you back in a few weeks
And the
to talk
boxing
about
match.
that. And the boxing match. Did you see her? She gave me a good whack. We'll be back at 4 o'clock with Gary Sass talking state budget, education reform in Providence, and a few more things. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you back at 4 p.m.